Welcome to the big show. Today we have a very special guest, Dave, who's an elite member, friend of the show, someone you've known for a long time. And we're going to talk about how he went from parts manager to general manager. It's a great conversation and a lot of insight, and something I would hope every parts service manager director would listen to and consider. There's a little bit of news.
We have to call it nah.
Yeah. And much, much more coming up on this edition of Service Drive Revolution. So Dave is here with us today. We invited him because we wanted to talk about somebody going from parts to becoming a general manager. He's in our elite group, leader of humans, incredible person, a friend to the family here too. So welcome, Dave, to the show. We thank you for doing this. So Dave, you've been here to the office, right?
Yes.
So one of our employees that has a Tesla, somebody literally, how would you say this?
There's no good way to say it. Just say
You know how people kind of are hating people with Teslas? We're not sure if it's a Tesla retaliation or if it's just somebody that weird.
the downtown LA special.
But this is the opposite of lighting a Tesla on fire.
It's kind of lighting a Tesla on fire. Maybe we shouldn't say it. I don't know. If you can't think of a way to say it, Christian, then we probably shouldn't say it.
So what's happened, Dave, is we have this Tesla that's owned by one of our beloved employees.
We have all this on camera.
My favorite thing about the Tesla is it records. Like when someone gets close to that thing, it starts what's called sentry mode, which it has. I don't know, Hogie probably knows better than I do, but it's like 6 or 7 cameras that kind of go all the way around, all the doors, the front, the back, everything like that. So the sentry mode catches a homeless, unhoused man, and he has decided that the car wash is not good for the Tesla, but him pulling the door handle and peeing in the door handle is the way to get the car clean. And the whole thing is on video. It's very, very dangerous. And are you getting that kind of experience in Detroit, Dave? Or is that just an LA thing?
No. Seems like an LA thing.
Yeah.
Dang it. Okay. We were worried that was a possibility. But that's what's happening in our neck of the woods.
Not much has changed here in LA.
How about those tigers?
It's still an experiment that isn't working. Did you guys see the guy that had the road rage with the Tesla that was like getting out of his Tesla on the freeway and like hitting people and all that?
No.
You never saw that?
No.
So there was a guy here in LA that was, just beating people up. Like he would get out of his car and sometimes he would hit the other car with like a pipe just in the middle of traffic. He was out of his mind. They finally caught the guy. He got sentenced to, I think, 5 years in jail. They let him out in 10 months for good behavior. He moved to Hawaii, ended up punching this lady in a road rage thing. And in Hawaii, he wasn't in jail a day and they beat the living tar out of this guy.
Oh,
Wow.
And so he's going to have to serve time in Hawaii. Then he comes back here for a violation of parole or whatever. But they let him out 4 years and a couple months early here. Like, it's just nuts. It just doesn't work.
And the California Bureau of Tourism is actually putting all this on their website just to try to attract more stuff just like that.
Yeah. Tourism ends up being down very
Do we submit
very
our
dramatically.
video?
We can.
Nobody wants to come to LA.
Oh, Dave, I've got a question for you. This is a history question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Where was King David's temple located?
I don't know.
Right next to his ear.
Come on. Okay, let's go to the news.
Oh, the news is even better. I'm so excited.
Our
to tell
in-house
this story.
Regis Philbin.
Oh, that's pretty accurate. A little Regis Philbin. Okay, so we have one
More Regis than
story in the
Megan?
news. It's actually fairly close, like within earshot of Dave's neck of the woods. But this is kind of a good sign, I think, for what the future of the automotive industry has. So a Philadelphia Catholic high school, they opened up a 3-year technician training academy, which I think is a really, really good idea. That's kind of a hotbed of some really, really great dealerships out there. But one of the area dealerships donated $1 million to help fund this program and support it. But I love the fact that schools are getting back into like that, that kind of, for lack of a better term, like that shop or like the trade kind of thing, which I think is something that ended up getting us into like that technician shortage that we're in.
Sure.
What do you think about that, Dave? That the schools are starting to kind of embrace that?
That's amazing. Definitely long overdue.
Long overdue, right? Because when you were in school, you had an opportunity to go to auto shop, right?
Yep. It is coming back around in our neck of the woods too. The 3 local high schools do have programs. So
Oh, that's great. I love it. Yeah.
Yep.
I believe the children are our future.
That's it for the news?
That's it.
Wow. That's not really news.
Really blew my hair back.
So, Dave, the thing that we always are trying to figure out, and you're the counterbalance to this, is why more of us in fixed ops don't think that we can be a general manager, and we kind of put this limiting belief on ourselves, or we don't even give the idea of full potential a seat at the table, in a sense. Like, we just discount it and we kind of submit and wait for permission, in the sense of being the ones leading things, when we all know that fixed ops is the future, if not the current reality. But we don't see ourselves as the ones, running things or pulling the strings, in a sense. And so what do you think it is that the average parts manager, the average service manager doesn't even consider the idea that they can be a general manager or a dealer?
I think personally for me, it was that imposter syndrome that I distinctly remember the day I had the conversation with Christian about it. And fortunately, I had someone in my life that pointed it out. But I don't think the average parts manager or service manager realizes that it's easier than it looks, right? You just have to involve yourself. You just have to be there. Like you said, I don't ask for permission. I just do the right things and everything else falls in place. To where I think people are afraid to make the decision, and maybe their leadership ahead of them doesn't allow them, or maybe the reprimands that they get. But you just do. I always did the right thing and the rest of it paid off. So, but that imposter syndrome is the biggest thing, I think, looking back.
And so the thing about imposter syndrome that's interesting is you were getting incredible results. So you took something that was losing money. You started off as a parts manager and worked your way up, but it was losing money. And through your, leadership and figuring it out, you created a completely different outcome for the business by making them profitable. Which, a lot of things change with that, right? Like, people are having more fun. There's, less chaos, all of the things that come with that. And so you're getting incredible results. But even in a situation where you're doing something that most people couldn't do, which is get results and turn something around, you still have that imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, I don't think that ever goes away necessarily, even if you're getting big results.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's maybe somewhat of a personality trait, or for me, I'm an introvert, right? Maybe it's correlation with that in a sense.
How does an introvert feed to imposter syndrome? How are those
Again,
connected?
by maybe not putting yourself out there in that environment or that world, and just maybe a little bit of self-doubt.
Not wanting the attention.
Agreed.
Because I
Yes.
guess with more responsibility comes more attention, right?
For sure.
Definitely more visibility the higher you go up there, right? And the more people that are kind of looking to you. I think as an introvert, you're fairly comfortable in your own space, but like that going through it would be that you have to accept that you're part of other people's space too. I don't know if that's it. That's a really it's insightful to kind of think about that and that imposter syndrome in relation to how you see yourself with other people.
Well, and also we in fixed ops, and I know this from my experience coming from service and then working my way up, is you perceive sales to be an extrovert's game, right? You perceive sales to be this charismatic thing where you're throwing these like Tony Robbins sales meetings and everybody's fired up, and it's this thing that is completely the opposite of what you are. I know that's how I felt. So is that a part of it too, Dave? Is like that you perceive sales to be an extrovert's game?
Yeah, I would agree to that. I will say personally, I'm getting more comfortable with that side, and like you told me, it's almost easier in a sense, but you just have to get more comfortable with it.
Yeah, so when I told you that sales was easier, nobody ever believes me when I say that, but we've had quite a few people come through Elite that have become general managers that I say that to. But can you kind of explain to the audience why sales is easier, or just your perception of what that means?
I would say, just like you say, I'm a consumer too, and it's just really about dealing with people and teaching the right processes and doing the right thing, ultimately treating the customer right, which in turn makes your business really successful.
Yeah, and then on top of that, coming from fixed ops, especially if you're in our system, we have a lot of processes that carry over to sales, or just the mindset of how a system works and how the customer experience is drawn out. None of that really exists in sales, even though we assume that it does, right? There's very little accountability in sales most of the time.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, most dealers are probably the same. They just do what they do because that's what they've always done, instead of trying new things and seeing what works and adapting to the current market, right?
Yeah. And like, the process for the sales department that I developed, even when I try to explain it to people, they just can't, understand, because it's so counter to what everybody does. But it's always built around the customer experience, decision fatigue, like the same thing with, service drive Judo that we use in the drive. It's about taking away the customer's worry and decision making and building trust, but also kind of building compliance in a way. And so, we just tend to build things for the psychology of the customer versus the ease of the employee, I guess, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So what other kind of misconceptions do you think are out there now that you've made the move and you have some experience in the seat? What are some misconceptions that people would have being a parts manager or a service manager about being a GM?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say it's, from where they sit now, they may think that role doesn't do much. The reality is, if they would find solutions to problems or problem solve and just do the right thing for the customer, everything else is the same all the way up the ladder. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. Any other ones? Like, it's just more responsibility, right? It's a different kind of responsibility.
Yeah, I would say you have to be genuine in wanting to see your team grow and not being afraid of somebody taking your job, and just really teaching and showing and growing and guiding. There's a lot of times we joke, but like, I don't have a psychology degree, but I a lot of times think that if you had one, it would make the job easier. You have to be surrounded by really good people.
That's good. Yeah. A big part of it is psychology, right?
Yeah.
What would you say about the leadership and the responsibility side of it? How would you describe that? Because you're doing less busy work, but you're responsible for more, right?
I would say it could be a little lonely at the top, right? You have all these problems coming to you, and you have to solve the problems and check in on people, and but no one ever comes and asks you how you're doing or how your day is, or
Yeah.
I would say, but that's okay. We know that, right? We know that it's lonely at the top, and that's why we have the networks of people that we do. Um, but I would say uh, anyone going or transitioning into that role, don't be surprised by it.
Yeah, that's good. Is that something that you miss, not being so lonely?
I have a balance, you know what I mean? I have some good camaraderie with my team, and honestly, we joke about it, but that poking and prodding at each other, I think, is healthy for a team. So I still have a lot of that, and I don't know if it's because I came from there, right? But I try to engage in that as much as I can because it's good for them and it's good for me.
Yeah, that's great. So, do you remember the moment you kind of made the decision that you were going to go for it?
A wise man once told me, that being you, that nobody, when I was we were in LA, at Top Dog, and you said something to me about, look around this room, these are all, but they're no smarter than you are. You just need to make the decision. And they were very open to me, and it stuck with me. And at that point, I made the decision. Win or lose, I accept all responsibility of that. And once I made that decision personally, it's when it kicked my professional career to the next level.
Yeah. And I think at that point you'd been offered the role, right? And you were kind of trying to work through the process of whether you wanted to do it or not, right?
Yeah, I think, looking back, maybe there was some gray areas or hints or conversations leading up to it, and maybe I was I don't want to say oblivious to it, but a little bit still in denial. And maybe my owner believed in me more than I believed in myself. And now in hindsight, it makes a lot more sense.
That was one thing I was going to say is that your owner had so much more faith and clarity and that you were the right person for the job than you did. And it was really apparent from the outside kind of looking in, but they had nothing but faith that you were going to do it. And you just kind of it seemed like you had to work through it yourself to get to, like, I don't know if it was a why me thing that you were trying to address, but the other thing that's really consistent with your career is like, and this is also service, then when you went to be a GM, was that thing that you just said a little while ago, like when he makes a decision to do it, it happens. And I wonder if maybe that's what your owner's seeing you is that when you make the commitment and decision to do it, whether it's being a GM or a parts manager, to you, it's all just the same thing. It's like, well, what do you have to do it at the highest level? And that's probably the thing I would say, that if you're a parts manager or service manager looking to be a GM, if you have that thing in you that's like, oh, I can just beat whatever the thing is, then you probably are way more groomed to be a general manager than you think.
Yeah, and I think too, like the one thing Dave has that a lot of people in fixed ops have, but they just don't, they don't believe is, one is they have this belief that things can get better. And then second of all is they're willing to, give up the thing that feels safe to try something else in pursuit of the idea that things can be better. And that's really all it takes in a sense, right? And common sense, I guess. Dave has common sense. Like, he's logical. He's not, abstract in his ideas or, that sort of thing. So kind of maybe one last question, Dave, is like, what did you worry about when you were a fixed ops director versus what you worry about day to day now? Like, have you made the jump where sales and units and gross are the most important thing? Like, that's what you're thinking about more than you're thinking about ELR and gross profit percentage?
I try to stay engaged in the fixed side, just not because it's my comfort zone, but I know the numbers now, right? I know the big levers to pull. I know that there's still a lot more opportunity. I do say most people that came from the front end, they will never understand the fixed numbers. I just don't think they will understand like we understand now. So I have a good balance of it. Obviously, the more you integrate it, the more time you spend in a department is what you focus on. So now that I've moved my office and I'm at a different location, my day-to-day operations, my schedule looks different, but all of it's on my mind at all times. I'm a little bit obsessed with it, and I don't think you could be successful without being obsessed with it. So it's a constant effort given, put it that way. I stay engaged in all of the Zoom meetings, in all of the text chats, and all of the rah-rah type of thing, because I feel it's important, not just for my team, but for me to see. So,
Is there anything that surprised you about the front end?
no, I guess I've been in the business long enough that I've seen, I've seen a lot, put it that way. So,
That sounds like stories that cannot be told on the podcast.
That's really funny. Well, that's great. We appreciate you doing this.
yeah, I appreciate the invite.
Were you going to say something else?
I was just going to say, for me, I have zero regret. Like the journey, the time that I spent in each department, the all of the things I've experienced. For other people, I would just say, do it faster, do it sooner. I wouldn't change a thing personally because I wouldn't have all of these connections and the growth personally and professionally. But anybody out there that is hesitant, just do it faster. Don't hold back.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, I would agree. Our goal is to encourage more fixed ops personnel to, shoot for becoming a general manager and thinking bigger, because it helps the industry. It closes that gap, and it's better for the customer and the dealership. The dealerships will be healthier and more profitable by far. It's great. Thanks so much, Dave. Thanks for taking the time. We hope you have a good afternoon.
Thanks, guys. You too.
Good answers, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks much for watching this episode of Service Job Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.